Welcome back to Windows Wednesday, and we are going to talk today about the need for a master toggle switch in Windows and why such a thing is not necessary in Linux. Thanks for checking out this video by Switched Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And we are going to be talking about the need for a master toggle switch in Windows, as Mario, Hucklak, wrote an article about people really wanting a single toggle switch, or maybe at least a single place to manage all the privacy things. And this article came a day after this author created another article with 14 simple liar, Windows tweaks that instantly boost your privacy. And this was interesting because 14 simple tweaks, and they are in the entire spectrum of the control center or settings panel, whatever they're calling it these days. They're phasing out that control panel. They'll have it finally completely dominated here soon, I guess. But we'll just have a brief look at these and just have a little bit of a mention here. But this author says he started to go out and say, hey, I'm just going to create a simple guide here. It ended up being a 5,000-word article with 14 different places you need to go to turn off settings, privacy issues, and things. And so having a look at this, it starts with device encryption because, of course, the default device encryption stores your passkey on Microsoft servers. Now, what the author suggests here to do is to completely remove that and go the different means of encryption. However, I will note that even though the default does save that passkey to your Microsoft account, you can delete it from your Microsoft account, not store it there, and save it other ways. I like encryption, just not when it's forced upon you in the way that Microsoft has done. We look at Find My Devices setup. This is something you have the option to turn on or turn off at the OBE screen. This is one of only 2 of the 14 ways. And disabling telemetry, which he does mention here, you cannot completely disable telemetry. I would like to completely disable telemetry, but you can reduce the amount of data back to just basic system specs. And when you're online, you know, enough stuff to build up that dossier that you may or may not be the one that someone's looking for. Who knows, right? And then there's activity tracking, which is a completely different place as well. Let's actually go back up and have a brief look at where these are. So this is under privacy and settings, under encryption. This is also under privacy and security. Privacy and security is the telemetry. Here's another one under privacy and security. Disabling activity tracking. So this allows them to track everything that you do across the operating system to give you personalized ads. Who doesn't want personalized advertising? I don't want advertising at all. And I shouldn't have to see it in my operating system. Here's location tracking as well. Many applications and other devices and things can report where your location is. This is interesting to me. I started thinking about this one because it's like, you know, it'll allow traditional programs to access your location to deliver maps and weather updates and other location-based features. Like, I live in a van traveling around the country, and I have no need for location-based tracking. I mean, I'm perfectly capable of entering in the nearest city manually. I don't need my phone to automatically update while the weather channel tracks me across the world, okay, with the device ID and things like that, you know. But even, like, how many people are really in so many different places perpetually? How accurate is weather? Take it from a person who has to constantly know what the weather is for my safety. The weather doesn't change within about a 50 geographical mile radius at any point in time, being that the average person does not change their location that frequently. I got news for you. Most people, this is all about tracking your location, not about giving you a tailored weather experience. It's not going to change that frequently. but you can turn that off. That is in the privacy and security. Here is disable search highlights, another one in privacy and security. This is can display highlights and suggestions on the search home, including trending topics, web-based content. So basically giving you information based on the things that you are doing. Then there's disable cloud search. So we're halfway through the list and we are still in privacy and security. Hey, that's good news, right? So this allows whenever you're doing some basic search, because, I'm looking for that file, it'll take that search query and throw it onto the internet, tied, of course, to your IP address and your computer identifier and your authentication, all this type of stuff. And so that means that Microsoft is collecting information. So, of course, you can turn all of that off. And then over here, this is the first place we need to go to somewhere else. This is switch to a local account. This is what some people have said. Hey, just set your Windows up with a throwaway address and then just switch to the local account, be done with it. The reason I don't like that option is because I do not want to send Microsoft the message that we'll just comply with what you want to do. No, I want to continue to do, no matter what I have to do, to have an out-of-the-box experience with a local account only. Microsoft is actively blocking that. And if it gets to the point where too many people are using that method of just creating that account and then coming over here and just turning on the local account, how long do you think this switch to a local account option is actually going to be viable, being as that Microsoft really, really, really wants to know the exact person authenticated into every operating system at every take? I mean, even your family members in your house, suppose you only have one computer, they really want to use those biometrics, which means every person in that house is going to have their own account. So you can tie it to a household and then to a computer device and then to an actual authenticated user. That is the goal, and that is the problem. So over here, it does say that, yes, you can still switch to it, and this is good that this option is here for now, but I don't like this as the final option for having a local account, because you're still complicitly setting up the Microsoft account just because that's what they want, and that's what's going to allow them to continue doing the abuses that they are doing. Here is under a different location, settings, apps, install apps, uninstall OneDrive. Remember, after a recent update, OneDrive will automatically sync all of your files to its cloud. And if you don't even know that's happening and you're just like, that's garbage, and you delete OneDrive, your computer files will disappear off your computer. It's not even saving local copies to your computer in some instances. So they mentions in here that you have to go into OneDrive, sync backup, go into advanced settings, turn on the option to download all the files to maintain it. So you have to turn on download the files to maintain the local files before you delete it. If you delete OneDrive without doing that first, your files are going to be deleted because it will have synced them to the cloud and then deleted them from the local machine. Now, not everybody's computer setup is that way, but many of them have been automatically set up that way. That is just ridiculousness beyond ridiculous. But that is exactly what is going on there. All right. But they talk about that. Uninstall Copilot, of course. This is also in the settings and apps. So remove the Copilot application. That's going to be a feature you're going to do. Then they have, of course, Windows Recall. This one is open start, turn on or off Windows features. So this is in another location. And then you need to go back in and turn off the recall feature. And then you need to go and hold on. What are they doing there? There's a number of steps over here. Turn the features on or off, find the Windows features, clear the recall. Oh, you need to clear all your data first, and then you need to restart your computer, and then you need to go back into here again. This is insane. Disable Windows backup, because, of course, this backs up your computer to Windows cloud, and if you have that, then they have control over that information, especially if they have your decryption keys. And so you need to go into your Windows backup, and here's turn off remember my apps, turn off remember my preferences, otherwise it's going to have all those configuration settings. This is like the applications you've installed and stuff like that. And then disable Windows Update, which of course you have to have a policy editor to do this. So the basic versions of Windows, I don't think has the policy editor even now. You have to have more of like a Pro or an Enterprise to have this, but you can turn that off. And that way you have granular control when you're doing your updates. And then, of course, limit Microsoft Edge telemetry. You should just remove Microsoft Edge. But anyway, you can turn off or limit the telemetry on the system as well, and turn off the help improve Microsoft products and allow Microsoft to save your browsing activity, including history, for its own devious goods. All right. So there you go. You want to do all that. Then, of course, you want to clear all of those settings. Here's Copilot. Here's show the Copilot. Here's turn that all off. And he gets to the bottom after 5,000 words going, okay, that took a lot more stuff than necessary. Then there's a lot of FAQs about will this work or things like that. And then there's 4 comments on here, and basically, if running Windows 11 Professional or higher, you can disable telemetry entirely. So if you are running that Professional or Enterprise, you can do that. Harold56 says, something is seriously wrong that there are so many tracking features that have to be individually turned off. There should be one button to stop all tracking and telemetry. And this is kind of what Firefox is looking at with the AI. One master toggle switch, and we looked at that in a recent video in the beta, and it worked. I mean, it did everything. I did not find any remnants of AI in Firefox after that toggle switch was hit. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's actually like the end of the world must be coming, because Firefox finally listened and did something intelligent. So it's insane. And clearly a clear deterrent for me ever using Windows 11 on my personal devices. So I don't know gets it. Yeah, you're going to force me to use it for work. That's fine. But on my personal devices, no thank you. And just a thanks for putting all this together. So after that, the author here comes in and talks about the fact that there should be one place to do all of this kind of stuff. It should be a single master toggle, or at least one location. And half of that list is under the privacy and security stuff. But there should be one master toggle switch, which should even kill all telemetry and altogether. There's no reason I should be sending anything to Microsoft if I do not want to send that stuff from Microsoft. It is my hardware. I paid a license fee for Microsoft, whether I did that directly or as part of the package deal of buying the computer. I want to stop that, and that should be a simple toggle switch. But he mentions here that this is the illusion of privacy controls. It presents a privacy page during the out-of-box experience, which has only 2 of those 14 options there: location on or off, or find my device on or off. And that really is this is what makes people, oh, it's fine, it's private. No, it's not really. And what he mentions here is that the privacy settings are not completely centralized. So there's a number of different screens you have to go into in order to turn all of these functions off. And this is what Microsoft wants. They want to have all this stuff. So managed collection is the real default, of course. Users are noticing and pushing back. So she's reading some of those comments that we just looked at from the original article. And again, a statement that Windows 11 really needs a master privacy switch. And so looking at this, most people are saying, yes, the current setup is way too scattered. Some people say, yeah, some consolidation might help. And this guy's, nope, I like having granular control. This person here might be brain dead. These 2% might be brain dead. And then not sure, privacy settings are confusing either way. And these are your basic, I have nothing to hide, you know. Of course, I think half of these are I have nothing to hide as well, based on talking to people. But I think we're seeing a resurgence in privacy, though. After that Amazon Ring Super Bowl ad, I think a whole lot more people talking about privacy now. And this is where I want to get to the final part of the video and talk about Linux and why Linux does not need all of these options. Most Linux distributions, by far the most, do not want to collect any information. Now, there's a few that are. There are some of them that are collecting just basic, simple system specs. There's like Ubuntu, which wants to collect a little bit more, but still in a way that's not directly tying it to you. I think Fedora and Debian have options. Debian, of course, has the optional popularity context, which just shows which apps you use. Fedora has a little bit more information there as well. But ultimately, even all of these, many of these are off by default or simple toggle switches and easy to check. But most Linux distributions, by and large, don't collect any information. They don't send any information home. There's no advertisements they're trying to give to you. If you can look at if you have just been the frog in the pot for the last maybe decade, you're looking at the computer going, these things are getting worse and worse. If you're dreading turning on that computer, especially your home computer, and you're just like, oh, I hate computers. Well, maybe, touching grass and getting rid of it might be an option. But if you do need to keep that computer for the home use, I gotta say, switching to Linux is a breath of fresh air, and it was for me. You have an operating system. It's not trying to sell you ads. It's not giving you junk pop-up notifications. It's not trying to collect your data. It's not sitting here saying, I need to check your system specs. Like, it assumes you're intelligent enough to do that yourself. And even if you're not, it still works pretty well, and it'll tell you on the install if something's gone wrong here. I mean, you may not know if you have a 32 or 64-bit computer. Most likely you have a 64. You may or may not know if you have an ARM or an Intel or an AMD or an ARM system. But the fact of the matter is, most systems, most ways you can figure this out without spending any significant amount of time. And for most people, just head on over to linuxmint.com, download their Linux Mint recommended Cinnamon download, follow the simple instructions on the page, and you will have a Linux system which is privacy respecting. It doesn't have 14 different ways to turn off privacy because it never collected any of that data to begin with. Now, if you happen to want to give a bunch of data out to a bunch of people, I'm sure there are software packages you can install in order to do that, or hey, you can just keep on sticking with Windows if you want. But the fact of the matter is that Windows has gotten so big and bulky and data hoggy that it just wants to collect anything and everything. It wants to use it for its own goods. It wants to sell you things. It wants to cram an advertisement or a recommendation in every corner of square space, constantly annoying you, breeding your dissatisfaction so that you can just buy stuff and Microsoft can make a bit more money on the ad sale. Linux is an operating system that you install on your system and it lets you get your work done, and it doesn't annoy you in the process. It's not begging for things, and it's not selling any of your data to a big corporate shell. And it is easy to install. I'm going to leave the video here with a comprehensive review of Linux Mint, this system here that you see on my web browser. So I'll leave that with you, and I'd encourage you, if you have control over your operating system, you should at least experiment with Linux. If not entirely switch, you should at least experiment with it and see what you can do. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.